Hello and welcome to episode number 211. This is the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com, and I am Cornelius Fichtner. Nice to have you with us. The projects that you and I manage are crucial to implementing change within our organizations. To succeed, we routinely depend on the functional managers. That's the person who runs the department or division, who resolves day-to-day operational issues, and who is responsible for ensuring that the project team has the resources it needs and keeps its goal aligned with the company's overall strategy and vision. Unfortunately, there are only few functional managers out there who speak our language or even have a firm grasp on the most fundamental of project management processes. Too often, this knowledge gap leads to poor communications, conflicts, schedule delays, cost overruns, and lost business opportunity. And who gets the blame? Yep, we do. To help bridge this gap, we are interviewing Jack Ferraro from myprojectadvisor.com today, who wrote the book Project Management for Non-Project Managers. We discuss the many ways in which functional managers can get involved in project success, and we also discuss the 4 key project management skills that any functional manager needs. First of all, there is articulating the real customer need and business case. Second, we have staying focused on project deliverables. Third is understanding your key dependencies. And fourth and last, being proactive about project risk. And now, please stop by any time if you have any questions for me. I am a manager with an open door policy. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcasts feature interview.
Today with Jack Ferraro, author, speaker, and president of My Project Advisor Incorporated.
Hello, Jack, and welcome to the Project Management Podcast.
Hello, Cornelius.
So we've had you on the program before talking about your book, The Strategic Project Leader, and you're also on our PDU podcast, where you do in fact give the longest of all our presentations on the topic of the strategic project leader. And now we're bringing you back on because you recently published a new book, Project Management for Non-Project Managers. It's published by the American Management Association. So who is this book for?
Cornelius, this book is primarily for business managers or functional managers who find themselves working on projects. These are people that may have a very specific skill set or a very specific discipline that they came out of college with or grad school with, but they do not have any formal project management training. And the idea is to give them the basic skills that they need and also give them a call to action on why it's important for them to partner with their provider, in this case a project manager or a project team, to deliver positive results to their organizations. I think it's also a good book for executives to read the book and realize the importance of having their functional managers skilled at delivering projects, because it's not uncommon for functional managers or business leaders to have management business objectives around projects or completing certain projects. And I also think it's helpful for project managers to understand the role of the business leader in these projects and what role these functional managers and business leaders need to play in making sure that the project manager facilitates that in the proper way.
All right. Now, most of the people listening to our discussion here, they are project managers by trade. They manage the projects. They have the knowledge. They have the skills. They have the education to do that. So why should they now continue listening to our discussion here, since the book is not really targeted at them? How is it going to help them?
It's going to help them because what I have learned from writing my first book was very much targeted to project managers, specifically certified project managers, the strategic project leader. And one of the things I discuss in this book, very early in the book, is that no matter how good you are as a strategic project leader, you can't do it alone. you have to have help. You have to have a team. And part of that team includes a customer team, which is really headed by business leaders or these functional managers. I think it's important for us as project managers to realize the relationship, this provider-customer relationship, which I talk about in the book, the provider being the project manager, the customer being the functional manager, and how this relationship needs to work in a very healthy way. And I think the more project managers understand this relationship and can help educate and educate their customers as to why certain things need to happen a certain way on a project, I think the overall project organization will have a greater likelihood of succeeding.
Was the book something that was inside of you that just needed to get out? Or was this something that the American Management Association approached you? So a little bit about the why of the book. Why did you write the book there?
Well, first of all, I was asked to write the book, but I was also asked to come up with different topics. And I really felt that this was an important topic to provide functional managers this call to action. I've experienced in my own career that when I've been successful in executing large projects, there's always been at the core level, there's been this very strong relationship with my customer, with a functional manager or business leader that has been at the heart of this. And I've noticed that when projects have not been successful, there's this gap, there's this void between the provider and the customer. And the motivation for me to write this book was to try to help close that gap and provide that call to action really for the business leader to take the steps necessary to move closer to their provider, but at the same time giving them the tools, giving them the knowledge, and giving them the skills to hold the provider more accountable.
All right. So let's open up the book and let's go to the introduction, because the introduction, the very first sentence in there is as follows. The most common vehicle for implementing change within an organization is the project. Would you please elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Change is everywhere. All organizations are dealing with change at a lightning pace. Functional managers or business managers are not immune to this. They may try to be immune to this, or they may try to hide from this change, but they can't. They need to embrace this change, and they need to be part of the solution to this. So my goal with that statement is really to get the functional or business leader to understand that things cannot just operate in a normal basis anymore, that they have to embrace projects, they have to embrace some level of project management to be successful in their careers. And that ultimately they are a critical part of driving successful change, and it does not all fall on the PMO, the project management office, or the project team.
When we continue through the book, let's go to chapter 1, where you write that, and I quote, little attention is given to improving the project management skill set of functional managers. So little attention is given to improving the project management skill set of functional managers. How would you suggest this skill set should be improved?
Well, certainly I would like to suggest that functional managers read my book. I think it gives them core basis of what they need to know, and gives them some insight as to project management and why project management may have some of the reputations that it has. The first thing I think really that has to happen is a functional manager, before they can even think about improving the skill set, they have to embrace this idea that they are responsible for implementing change. And once they embrace that, then they have to then start to increase their knowledge on project management. And they can do that several ways. Number one, they can read my book. There's plenty of other books out there as well. They can also potentially pursue maybe a certification or take some training classes that go over the basics of project management. Do some online training or some simulations that are available by many different providers. All of these things will give them not just the basic terminology, but some of the challenges in managing, the constraints around cost, schedule, and scope, some of the dynamics. Very often we see functional managers who really don't even recognize project management as a discipline, and they need to be exposed to some of this information, some of this knowledge, so that they realize that there is a discipline here and that there's really an art to how to apply that discipline effectively in their organization. Once they're able to understand that, then I think they're better able to partner with their project team.
Okay, let me challenge you on this one here. Do you really think it's a good idea, particularly for us project managers, if we suddenly have so many functional managers in a company who, they've read your book, they've expanded their skill set, and they suddenly feel that I'm now a project management expert, and they start telling us project managers how we should be managing our projects?
Well, that's a great question, and I would say the answer to that question lies in your attitude towards the answer to this question.
And so it depends, right?
Well, no, I think there's a clear answer to that. But I'll tell you a story. I remember growing up outside of New York City, there was a clothing retailer who used to run commercials, and they used to say, an educated customer is our best customer. And I think if you believe that, if you believe an educated customer is your best customer, then this is absolutely not a good idea. This is a must idea that our functional managers must become more knowledgeable about project management. If we feel as project management that we have to hold all the cards and hold all the knowledge, we are creating potentially disastrous situations in our organizations. We should embrace this knowledge. We should look for the challenges. It drives the discussion. I think it raises the bar for all of us when functional managers have this level of education on project management.
So am I interpreting this correctly, that what you're saying means that improving the skill set in regards to project management of our functional managers is going to increase project success in a company? Did I understand this right? If yes, could you elaborate on that a bit?
Yes, improving their knowledge of project management and also improving certain skill sets. And the skill sets are really the second part of this book in terms of what I believe the four key skill sets that they really need to understand and be able to participate in effectively with the project team. Remember, we have to redefine how we look at functional managers and projects. They're not simply people who provide resources to the projects. They are essentially, ultimately, the truth of our requirements. They are validators of the vision, of the requirements, of where we are going. These people have to understand, the functional managers have to be critical linchpins here in participating in the project in a way that gives them the ability to be confident and be able to hold the project teams accountable for what they deliver.
Okay. At this point, let me close the book and throw you a complete curveball, because there is another group of people out there who really doesn't know much about project management, and that's pretty much the rest of the world. The biggest problem that I, as a project manager, usually run into about project management and what I do as a job is when I tell people, say at a party or wherever, I meet somebody for the first time, I am a project manager. And they immediately assume that I'm either an IT project manager or I'm a construction project manager, or they have some kind of a preconceived notion of what a project manager is. How would you explain project management to a new acquaintance at a party?
That's a great question. I think there's really two ways I would do that. Some of it would depend upon the type of day I had. But I think certainly one way I would describe that as is that as a project manager, what a project manager really is essentially in an organization is the spearhead of change. They are leading the change that the organization is attempting to execute on. On other days, maybe when I haven't had such a good day, I might describe that more as being a blue-collar change worker. In other words, that I'm doing a lot of the the grunt work or maybe even the dirty work within the organization at a very ground level to execute the change and to manage that change effectively to make the organization effective, essentially a better organization to work in.
Okay, thank you. That's going to help me a lot because it's one of those things that you really never know. How am I going to answer this question? All right. Back to your book. Let's open it up again. And you've already alluded a little bit to the 4 critical project management skills for functional managers that are required. So at this point, I'd like to take a look at these. They are in part 2 of your book. There are 4 of them, obviously. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to read the title of these 4 that you have. And then if you could just take it and develop it and run with it and give us a little bit of more of an insight of what exactly these 4 are and what they mean to us and to the functional manager. So the first one of those 4 critical project management skills for functional managers is this: articulating the real customer need and business case.
Sure. When I work with a functional manager, I don't want to come in and presume anything. I may be able to have read the charter. I might have had this project handed to me when it's maybe even been initiated, or maybe it's already been going on for a while. I want a partner in this provider-customer relationship who's going to be able to articulate to me what their real need is. The idea is here that very oftentimes we as project managers take the need for granted, that maybe it was articulated weeks or months ago by a sponsor. But I think the functional manager really needs to bring that to greater clarity, and their ability to articulate that is critical to project success. Having basically to be able to answer very simple questions such as maybe, why does capacity need to increase or decrease? How is it measured? What happens if this need is not met? Who ultimately benefits from having this need resolved? These are questions that I want a functional manager, be able to have open, truthful conversations about, so that I can then begin my craft of organizing a project, organizing deliverables, organizing resources that are going to satisfy that need. I think ultimately what happens is sometimes we skip over this part and not scrutinize the need enough. And very often our plan is maybe great, but it's not addressing the real need.
The second of those 4 critical project management skills for functional managers is staying focused on project deliverables. I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, in the essence of a provider-customer relationship, we need deliverables, and the functional manager needs to understand their responsibility in approving, providing input, and ultimately signing off on these deliverables. The worst thing I want to have is a functional manager who basically says, after the kickoff meeting, tell me when you're done. I want that functional manager to not only stay focused on the key deliverables and understand the deliverables of how they ultimately aggregate to the final project deliverable, but I also want them involved in giving me feedback and ultimately be accountable for accepting those deliverables and using those deliverables to achieve the benefits that they wish to achieve. So even though this is not to say that I'm asking a functional manager to develop a work breakdown structure or learn how to use software that does those things, what I am asking is that a functional manager understand the importance of deliverables and why it's important to stay focused on them as a management control mechanism throughout the project.
The third skill that you say they need is understanding your key dependencies.
Yes. I like to refer to this aspect of as being able to tell the story of the project. And when I tell a story of a project, it's how do we get from point A to point B? What are the key milestones? What are the key relationships, sign-off points, decision criteria that we have as a team, as a provider-customer team that we agree that we're going to make before we move forward? Very often I refer to the project deliverables, or the WBS, as the portrait of the project. I refer to our, what we would say in project management terms, our project network diagram, as the story of the project. I want to make sure that the functional manager, the business leader, understands that there should be a very clear sequence to the major deliverables. I'm not saying every detailed task. I'm saying the major core deliverables of, we agree that we're going to sign off on requirements before we begin development. Having that illustrated in maybe a simple one-page diagram of your major deliverables gets us all focused on how the story of the project unfolds. Now, the benefit of this is when we have functional managers who understand this, they are now in a position to hold project teams and project managers accountable for producing and facilitating this discussion, producing a one-page work breakdown structure that corresponds with a one-page project network diagram that illustrates the portrait and tells the story of how the work is going to proceed. And then we can have this discussion amongst the provider and the customer of where we agree, where we don't agree, what things we want to modify, and so on. It brings us together as one team.
And the fourth and final critical skill that a functional manager needs in regards to project management is, you say, being proactive about project risk.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, in many organizations, the culture drives risk to be a nasty four-letter word that nobody wants to talk about.
Yep, I've been there.
And the idea here is to educate business leaders and functional managers as to why it's important to talk about risk and what are some of the basic concepts behind risk identification and risk quantification, so that, again, they can not only understand the structure and the methodology to it, but can be better participants in executing these processes, and whether it's in the planning or execution stages of the project. Very often, project managers will document things, and they'll end up on spreadsheets or issues lists, and they're very difficult to be tracked. Right? There's nothing wrong with the functional manager understanding what a risk registrar should be and demanding that it's reviewed once a month or every 2 weeks with the project team to understand what risks are starting to emerge, which ones have passed, making sure we have our mitigation activities in place. When we start to have these types of healthy discussions amongst the provider and the customer, again, there's benefits to the entire project organization.
So to summarize here, once again, the 4 critical project management skills that a functional manager needs. Number 1, articulating the real customer need and business case. Number 2, staying focused on project deliverables. Number 3, understanding your key dependencies. And number 4, being proactive about project risk. Now, obviously, what we have just heard you talk about in a few minutes in the book, it's like 140 pages long. So there's a lot more detail that goes into this and a lot more information, a lot more specifics that you go into there as well. So, of course, here is the $1 million question to end our interview. How do I, as a project manager, get the functional managers in my company to read your book and learn about all of this?
I would pose one very simple question to the functional manager. How do you want to be able to make sure that me, the project manager, is doing my job? What is one simple book that I can read that will help you keep track of your project and hold your project team accountable? And if they're interested in doing that, they've got the right book.
Wonderful. And of course, there's always Amazon where you can get the book, and we'll make sure that we have a link to the book in our show notes so that it can be, birthdays are coming up, Christmases, and there are all kinds of holidays where you can sort of sneakily give this book to your functional manager as a little bit of a present and a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. There you go. Jack, once again, thank you for coming and introducing the book to us. It is called Project Management for Non-Project Managers, written by Jack Ferraro, PMP, and published by the American Management Association. It is approximately 240 pages thick. I appreciate your time today, Jack.
Great. Thank you. It's great to be with you, Cornelius.
And that was my interview with Jack Ferraro on project management for non-project managers. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com. If you are preparing for your PMP exam, then the best way to calm the butterflies in your stomach is to take a practice exam. Our PMP exam simulator offers you 9 such practice exams. To see how it works and take a free test drive, please go to freeexamsimulator.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com, and when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. The functional groups should not be allowed to stretch out the project for the sake of improvement, refinement, or the investigation of even the most remote and outlandish potential risks. Until next time.